You know what's interesting? I think there are so many guys out there that are used to dating women that are either flaky and don't like them, or women that do like them, but they have their own self-esteem issues, and so they're talking down to themselves. They may be very, lively and fun to be around, but there's just something about them that's like a bit off-putting, to where when a woman comes along that is legitimately confident in herself and is non-toxic and is actually doing the things that we as men say we want out of women, it can feel so foreign to us that we think to ourselves, this person can't be real. Like, this can't be an actual girl that's out there. Something must be up. And then we actually start second guessing if the woman in front of us is legitimately the way that we're seeing her, or we're waiting for the other shoe to potentially drop. And so there was a guy that had left a comment on a forum about a situation he's going through with two different women. One of them is one that's just kind of like whatever, and then the other one is seemingly one that he's starting to get a really high interest in, and she's very confident and bold, but he's just like, I really, really like her, but is this how it's supposed to be? And as a guy that before had dated women that were kind of like, whatever, it can be very easy to believe that women just out there just are all crazy, or there's something wrong with all of them, and that, really good ones that have a good head on their shoulders and aren't about toxicity and aren't also women that are going to complain or nag and stuff at us, they just don't exist, right? And so this guy, his situation, he said, there's a girl he was talking about on a previous forum chat that he says, we are now seeing each other once every 5 days or so. She remains super clingy, though in a way that sometimes turns me off. There's no way in heck I'm going to girlfriend this girl. Recreational use only. And we both agreed on that. So, I mean, at least he got her to agree to the recreational part. But yeah, he's saying this previous girl, she's too clingy, which means she's showing desperation. Yes, guys, I know you think you want a woman that's all about being clingy and desperate for you. It really is unappealing. And then he says, I also discovered she likes to keep an army of schmucks around her orbit, which is an indication of security. Yes, this woman has a lot of guys trying to float around, not necessarily the best thing. He says she was all too happy to talk about how she exploits them. She literally came out of an expensive theater show someone took her to come straight to my place. So again, he's keeping her on the back burner as a friends with benefits hookup situation. Personally, at this point, I wouldn't want to keep doing that with this particular woman, because I'd be like, I can find better, and messing with her is going to take time away from finding that. But hey, to each their own. Anyway, on to the girl we're going to be talking about. He says, at the same time, I've been dating this other 26-year-old early professional. So he lists some stats about her. So for one, she is supremely confident, like complete opposite of the other girl. She carries herself extremely well. She doesn't try to qualify herself, and I sense she is ultra aware of her image. In text so far, the only texts we exchange are logistics about meeting up. That is all very, very dry text. We agree to date logistics 4 to 5 days before a date, and she just turns up on time, as we agreed, without even having the need to further confirm after the agreement. I love it. So I talk to you guys about this all the time, that this idea that you have to reconfirm a date is asinine, because one, women have great memories, and number two, if a woman's highly interested in you, you might be her only shot at true happiness. She is not going to forget that she set up a date with you. Like, women that like you a lot aren't going to be like, well, you didn't call me to let me know, so I didn't show up. I can tell you, in the history of me dating, that has never happened with women that are highly interested. Women that were kind of like, yeah, they'd be like, well, you didn't call, you didn't tell. And it's because they wanted me to call and text so they could cancel. But then they end up flaking anyway, so they still cancel. So understand, that's why I tell you guys, you need to stop with this whole, I'm going to try to reconfirm thing. It may be a nice thing to do. I have found women are more likely to cancel if you call them up to reconfirm versus if you just let things fly. And also, you can trust and assume women have great memories. They will in fact show up if they make a date plan. So then he says, we meet once a week. She has shown no desire to meet any more often. If anything, an indication that it's okay for her. She has shown slight resistance to any hint that we might meet more often. Well, the reality is, at this point, women understand that they need time for their feelings to develop. And so they know that they need a little bit more time to be able to sit with themselves and think about the date they were on with you and feel things. And if they're trying to see you multiple times a week, then that cuts into the time that they need to sit with themselves as they're getting to know you and assess what they're feeling, how the journey is going, what she's seeing about you that's consistent. And so to that end, yeah, just because she's not trying to see you a whole lot right now doesn't mean that she doesn't like you. She's seeing you once a week. Right now, we don't know her schedule for other things that could be going on in her life, whether it's she has other family she's got to attend to, she's got a job, she's in school, whatever. Like, we don't know that stuff. So the once a week, I always tell you guys, as long as the woman is saying yes to dates when you ask her out, then that is a good thing. Now, here's the other thing. She might not be one of those women that come to you right away and say, hey, I want to see you more than once a week. But I can assure you, over time, as she's having a better time with you and her interest is building, at some point she's going to be like, hey, so what's up with just seeing each other once a week? Or she'll do what most women do and say, hey, so I know we just saw each other, but there's this thing coming up on this day that's in this same week. Do you want to go? And that'll let you know that she's ready. But trust and believe, women will come to you at the point that they have a higher interest and start asking those questions to see and get more of your time. He says, I've seen her a grand total of 6 times. So they've been seeing each other for a month and a half. They've gone on 6 dates. This is normal. He says, we hooked up on the 3rd date. Also very normal. Actually, it could have happened on the 2nd date, but I didn't have the logistics at the time. This is why you always got to think about logistics of where you're taking a woman, because you could have a hookup happen on a 1st date, a 2nd date, and you assuming that it can't happen is going to cause you to not set up logistics to where it could in fact happen. Anyway, number 2, she has her choice of men and she knows it. Well, most hot women do. And therefore, she is in no hurry for anything. Well, she may be accepting your offers and possibly the offers of other guys, so she needs time to figure out with her feelings, like, who she's feeling the most for. So yeah, she's not going to be in a hurry because at the age that she's at, I think you said she's like 26 or something, that she has the pick of the litter and she knows it, so she can take her time knowing full well that if any one of these guys start to get upset about that or throw a fit of some kind, that she can cut them off and still have other options. So this is perfectly normal. He says she talks vaguely of future plans, but she's extremely careful to never overcommit herself. Whenever future possibilities come up, she talks about them in a way that disqualifies. For example, I don't think you're ready to settle, are you? Or, you don't like having more kids, do you? To me, it seems like she's testing what I want with her, and she is used to men qualifying themselves back. Well, the thing is, she's putting those things out there because those are her low-key ways of letting you know, I potentially see a future with you. So this is the thing, because men think women should be direct. So if a woman wants a future with me, she should just say, I see a future with you. Most women aren't going to do that, but they will say stuff like, so are you thinking about potentially having kids someday? That's her way of saying, I could potentially see myself having kids with you, but that's only if that's your goal. Is that your goal? That's how she's going to ask the question. This is why it behooves you guys to learn the ins and outs of how women communicate, because as far as she's concerned, that was her being direct. Her saying, so, are you ready to settle down? Do you want to have more kids? She thinks she's being direct because in girl world, if she were to say that to another woman, the other woman would know what she's talking about. So he's not thinking this is anything. This is totally a thing. If you need more help, by the way, on figuring out how women communicate, so you can better decipher what's going on, you can check out my Get Girls Academy. I have a program in there called 7 Steps to Better Communication with Women that goes through this exact thing. So then, anyway, he says, I swat these tests straight away and I never qualify back, and I think that's the right thing to do. Well, right now, when she's asking those kind of questions, you should be jokey and jovial with your answer. Not insulting, but just a little jokey with it to keep the mood light, basically. He says, in a way, I'd like her to show her hand first because I sense that if I indicate too much attachment and future plans, she'll feel trapped and bolt. Well, exactly. This is why, again, as she's bringing these things up, at some point, she'll bring them out in a more stronger way. But for now, it's only been 6 dates. Neither of you should technically be thinking about, like, this person's officially my person, especially you. Like, you want her to get there first, so you should always be moving slightly slower than how she's moving. Anyway, he says, she is, however, quite compliant and non-resistant in a feminine and confident way. She's extremely pleasant and polite in person. 100% follows my lead, but is confident enough to state what she wants in a clear and blunt way, and I like that, and that's good. Ideally, she's doing it in a way that's blunt, but is still respectful of you, which is what we want. He says, I tell her to show up at a certain time, and everything else is me, and she's in for the ride. She doesn't try to resist or one-up me on anything like that. I have the dates planned out, and all goes well according to plan. So this is the things, he's listing right now, the things that guys care about a woman that's going to be able to follow his lead, not question him, be feminine, be jovial, be upbeat, be able to say her piece, but be nice about it. These are all the things that men seemingly want in a woman, right? He says, for example, as a test, in a change of venues, I told her we're going to walk an hour to our next destination. And although I sensed unease on her face, she was happy to comply. Then, when we showed up to our next venue, literally 1 minute later, I cracked a joke about it and we had a laugh. So that was a good test. He was testing her to see A, what kind of temperament she had, and B, if she's really, really the kind of woman that's gonna go along with the program or complain when things get tough. Oh, we gotta walk, we gotta travel, what's that about? But she didn't do that. And so again, these are the kind of tests that are positive tests that you need to be giving women to test what they're made of and to test their temperament. Because women can fake having a good temperament for the first 2 or 3 months, but I can assure you, if a woman in somewhere in her body has secretly a compartment to have a bad temperament, it will come out. This is why you gotta take your time and date her for the first 3 months versus trying to wife her up after 2 or 3 dates. Then he talks about how pretty she is and how at his age, he never thought she'd find somebody like her, blah, 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 blah. So then he says, I'm finding it very difficult to get a read on her as a person. Although she's pleasant and feminine, I can't tell whether she sleeps around, for example, whether I'm just one of many that she's rotating. She has given me no hint either way, but every time she mentions something she is doing, she only talks about female friends. So here's the thing, guy. Admittedly, most women in the beginning are gonna keep that kind of thing shut and like not talk about it a lot. So you gotta kind of get a read based on, how she's showing up in her character about what kind of woman she is. Now, you may not ever get to know that because I've dated women where some women, they legit had like 2 or 3 bodies on their count. And I've had others that later down the line, like a year into dating them, I found out, oh, they actually had a high body count of like over 50, 60 people, And so, but you got to ask yourself going in, one, given the age that she's at, what would be a realistic number? Like, for example, if this woman's 26 and she's been dating since she was 15, if I were to assume that she had 2 bodies a year since age 15, at the age of 26, it would not be out of the realm of possibility for her to have like 20 to 25 bodies, all right? That's if she just saw one guy every 6 months and then it didn't work out, right? So you gotta ask yourself, are you cool with the idea of a woman potentially having 20 to 30 bodies? If you're not, then you may wanna ask that question early on. I found, just me personally, as long as they're generally pretty safe and they seem to only be coming to me, I'm typically pretty good. So I don't have as much judgment on that as I used to in my younger days. But again, really look at like how she's showing up for you. Look at like, based on your conversations, you can start to ask, hey, so like, what's like a really nice date that somebody in the past took you on? Or like, what was it like for you dating in high school and college? Like you can ask those kind of questions to get an idea or a general sense of how she was dating. If she says, oh, I dated a bunch of guys in college, assume that dated is also code for, and I hooked up with all those guys and probably some guys you don't know about. And again, you got to ask, the older they get, are you cool with that being a thing? In this day and age, unfortunately, most women got a few bodies on them, oftentimes more than guys. It just is what it is. If you're affected or offended by that, then you probably shouldn't be dating. But I'm gonna assume she's probably not in that club for now. So he says also the non-clinginess, although a plus in my book, I'm finding it difficult to interpret. Is she just confident? Is this all fake? She claims to never have had a long-term relationship, which at her age is what the heck worthy, although she has had to travel a lot for family reasons. So here's where we get into it, right? Where on the one hand, this guy complained about the previous girl because she's too clingy and it feels toxic. But then this girl comes along and is able to show a healthy dose of like for this guy without going overboard with it. And now he's wondering, but now I can't tell that she likes me, what's going on? In spite of the fact that she's showing many other signs that she has high interest. She shows up for all dates, on time, doesn't need to text this guy like in between these dates to be able to show up for the date, has hooked up with him, has asked him questions about, you want to get serious in the future and do you possibly want to have kids someday? Like, in her own way, she's showing that she likes this guy, but it's in ways that are subtle and not desperate. And that's the problem, is that sometimes I think guys are also looking for signs from women that are actually signs of desperation, of being anxious, of being unsure of themselves as a way to indicate that there's actual like there. This is the actual healthy example of how women that aren't faced with a lot of trauma and have a good head on their shoulders will actually show up. They will show up in ways that are not overbearing, but it's still enough to let you know, hey guy, I'm interested. I'm saying yes to dates. I'm showing up. I'm being flirty and touchy and stuff on dates. What more do I need to show you? So then he says, she hasn't, in person, she's extremely touchy, doting, etc. Like I said, 100% with logistics in terms of texting and stuff like that. He says, I'm thinking to just continue being easy, seeing her once a week or so, but I have no idea on how to ramp up the tempo, as this seems like something that will possibly fizzle out slowly, if not upped up. So, you as a guy got to understand that because of how we're built, because we're designed to like spread our seed and go everywhere, that we're always going to be more attracted to women initially, and we're going to be quick to want to rush into things fast because we're analyzing our situation with them a lot faster than they are with us. After 1 or 2 dates, we're like, smells good. Seems like we had a good time in the sack together. She has a nice voice. She looks pretty and smells pretty. You know what? I'm sold. And so we can start to think, because they haven't come to the conclusion as fast as we have, that if they don't do it soon, oh my God, it's going to fizzle out. Fizzle out on whose side though? You're the one thinking the feelings are going to change if things don't happen right away. Meanwhile, she's done said yes to all the dates. She's flirted with this guy. She's hooked up with them. And each time they go out, she's showing more and more signals that indicate that she has a growing interest. And that's where I think guys need to get better learned in the idea that as a woman is progressing and dating you, each time her attraction is going up bit by bit. It's not like date 1, attraction here, date 2, all the way up here. That's how guys do it. The way women do it is they might start it, I'm gonna use Doc Love, rest in peace, Doc Love scale of percentages of attraction, right? So date 1, date starts off, she has like a 50% or 52% interest in you, right? By the end of that first date, you did a really good job and you bumped it up to, for her, 62%. Next date, it starts at 62%, and by the end of that second date, her attraction for you is up to 64%. Next date, you guys have a really good time, you hook up, and now her attraction to you is up to like 69% because you hooked up. Get it? Yeah. So understand, each date it's going up. Now, per Doc Love scale, the goal is to get into the 90% range where you can do no wrong. And the 80 to 95% range is going to happen at the point where she comes to you and says, hey, so what are we? I'm not seeing anybody. I want to be exclusive, etc., etc. Until you hit the glorified 80% to 95% attraction attraction range, all you're trying to do on each date is build up and see more and more signs that indicate that her attraction is going up. And it's not linear, because some dates you could go on like date 3 where it's at 69%, and then the next date, it's a movie date, it's kind of slow, and it dips a little bit to like 64%, right? So it goes back down a little bit. This is when maybe the girl doesn't text back as fast as she did the previous time, and you just back off a little bit, give her a little space. Next thing you know, you see her the next time, and that percentage is going right back up, right? But you can't think that just because her attraction isn't going to 80 or 90% as fast as yours has, that she's losing interest. Because again, if you're paying attention and you start to know the signs that women show that indicate that they're raising interest, you'll see that you have nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, most men do not study up on those signs. I got tired of not knowing what women were doing or being able to tell where a woman was at in her journey with me, so I started studying up on the signs. Nowadays, it's very, very easy. I can tell, okay, after this date, okay, she's definitely at like a 64%. I did a really good job. Or I can tell, okay, it's been the 5th date and it kind of went down a bit, so I'll leave her alone for a few days and it'll bump right back up. Like, it's amazing how you're able to actually run this thing if you actually know how to read the signals that women are going to send you. And so that's why it behooves you to learn those things. Again, if you need help with that, you can go to HarryWilmington.com and sign up for the Get Girls Academy. I got programs in there and audios that are designed to walk you through what this looks like and what this feels like, because you need to not only know on your end what you're feeling, but you need to know what women are going through with you that causes them to feel things and what those things are. As you get more knowledge about that kind of stuff, then you'll be less worried about, where am I in the dating process? I can't tell what's going on because I'm seeing these signs. You'll be able to be like me. I read through this whole thing. It's like, oh, she's definitely building high interest. She's been on 6 dates, done hooked up with them, done talked about the future, done asked them like, where he sees things going. Like, it's not hard for me to read that, but sometimes when you're in it, and you haven't studied this stuff, you just get lost because maybe you're thinking we should already be boyfriend and girlfriend after a month and a half, not knowing it takes women 2 to 3 months to get to that point, and it's perfectly fine if it takes them that long. So I just wanted to read that to you guys so you guys get an example and an idea of what it actually looks like when a healthy, non-toxic woman that has a good self-esteem about herself shows signs of interest, all right? Assuming that you've never seen this before, listen back to this so you'll know out in the wild when you're dating that this is how it should look. I know guys get this idea of thinking, it should look like she's begging for me and crawling, we should be fighting it. It's none of that. Like women that grew up in healthy house homes, that had two parents in the home and raised them well, this is how they're gonna act. They're not gonna be all wild and all flipping and all like, oh my God, I gotta show you all this desperation. They're gonna be more demure about it. But if you know what things to look for within that demureness, you will still be able to see that these women, in fact, have the hots for you. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Harry Dating Convos. Don't forget to visit HarryWilmington.com to download my free ebook, Texting Women Like a Boss. And while you're there, if you're ready to take things to the next level with your dating life, check out the Get Girls Academy membership program for exclusive strategies and live coaching. Go to HarryWilmington.com to learn more and join today. Lastly, if you've got a question you'd like answered on one of these shows, leave a comment below or write me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.